Imagine a totally normal Tuesday morning in Washington, D.C. You know the scene. People crossing streets, grabbing a quick coffee, checking emails on the metro. The whole heart of American politics is just humming along, business as usual. And then, in one single, blinding, violent flash, everything stops. The sky literally rips open. Today, we're diving straight into one of the most terrifying what-if scenarios ever conceived for this explainer, a nuclear detonation in our nation's capital. Let's walk through exactly what happens next. In a single, blinding instant, the absolute center of American power becomes ground zero for an unimaginable catastrophe. All those invisible assumptions that basically hold our modern civilization together, the idea that the power will stay on, that ambulances are going to come when you call 911, that the government is secure, they just instantly collapse. Washington isn't just a city anymore. It suddenly becomes this massive global symbol of a world entering its darkest hour. And for anyone watching from afar, the sheer scale of what they're seeing on their screens would be, absolutely incomprehensible. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the immediate aftermath wouldn't just be noise. It would actually be defined by confusion, disbelief, and this profound silence. I mean, the kind of silence that follows an event so incredibly massive that your brain simply cannot process it. It's not just the deafening roar of the blast, it's the pure cognitive shock right after. People just outside the blast zone wouldn't even immediately know what hit them. The human brain literally cannot compute an event of this magnitude in real time. The world would be completely, utterly unable to comprehend the unimaginable scale of what just happened. So let's look at how this immediate, local chaos actually unfolds, because it's a brutal timeline. Within exactly 1 minute, just 60 seconds, communications are completely wiped out by the blast and the electromagnetic pulse. We're talking fried circuits and dead cell towers across the entire region. By minute 15, transportation completely freezes. Roads are jammed with debris, and fires are spreading like wildfire under this extreme heat and devastating pressure. And within just 1 hour, every single surviving hospital is totally overwhelmed. People are suddenly dealing with a situation where the infrastructure they desperately need to survive has just ceased to exist, throwing the whole region into a dire emergency before anyone even understands what just happened. Because we have to remember, this is fundamentally different from a hurricane or an earthquake. A nuclear crisis is defined as an event that overwhelms literally everything at once, leaving behind a catastrophe that simply cannot be solved by a local response alone. The local fire department, they can't fix this. The local police can't secure it. This disaster hits so suddenly and outstrips local capacity so completely that it forces a desperate, immediate national response. But this isn't just a local or even a national event, right? The instantaneous global strain is absolutely massive. Airlines are grounded immediately. Global financial markets plunge, reacting instantly to the chaos. Military alert systems all over the world are activated, and international emergency channels are just flooded. And here's the really terrifying part. Before the actual facts even have a chance to catch up, uncertainty and rumors spread everywhere. This creates a secondary, paralyzing terror of its own, as people realize this crisis is only just beginning. We immediately crash into a grim reality. A brutal clash between extreme humanitarian needs and entirely broken systems. We desperately need blood and medical equipment, but hospitals are either overwhelmed or totally destroyed. People need fuel and shelter, but transportation routes are completely jammed with survivors just trying to get out. The need for coordination is literally off the charts, yet the very systems of order are shattered. Responders are forced to work under extreme, life-threatening pressure, all while nearby cities are frantically preparing for a terrifying influx of mass casualties. And then, as that initial shockwave settles, the world collectively holds its breath and asks one terrifying question. Was this the beginning of a war? Because you see, the fear doesn't just stop at the blast zone. The world's panic immediately jumps from the physical destruction right to the existential threat of global escalation. Is this just an isolated strike? Or is this the opening salvo of a much larger global conflict? Let's move to and see how this builds, setting off a terrifying chain reaction of fear and miscalculation. Step 1, determining responsibility. Who did this? Step 2, frantic intelligence gathering, trying to find those answers with dangerously incomplete data. Step 3, a desperate diplomatic crisis, as allies demand answers and rivals calculate their risks. And step 4, the looming heavy potential for retaliation. This places immense, unimaginable pressure on world leaders who have to make massive decisions under extreme stress. Just look at that number. 1.
One single explosion, that is literally all it takes to plunge the entire planet into a global emergency in a matter of minutes. Every single surviving branch of government, every military command structure now has to function under unprecedented stress. The early decisions made in these first few hours, they will literally shape the fate of millions, if not billions of people across the globe. And beyond the physical destruction, there's this profound psychological toll. People don't just fear the blast, they fear the future. Imagine families everywhere, gathered around screens in utter disbelief. Normal life just ends in a matter of seconds. The realization dawns on the entire global population that if Washington, D.C. can be hit, then nowhere is safe. Even the most protected spaces on Earth are completely vulnerable. It's a massive collective trauma that changes the human psyche overnight. In our deeply connected modern age, fear all by itself is enough to tear down systems. Financial markets drop instantly, or they simply fail to open altogether. Supply chains, which, as we know, are already pretty delicate, are placed under immense strain. Global travel slows down or halts entirely. A nuclear event in one capital proves that uncertainty is hands down one of the most powerful, destructive forces in history. It can grind the entire global economy to a total halt just through the sheer panic of what might happen next. So, the crucial point is that abstract debates about deterrence suddenly become painfully, tragically human. It's no longer about numbers on a screen or defense doctrines in some dry policy paper. It's about mothers, fathers, children, and first responders whose lives are torn apart in an instant. Nuclear weapons compress human suffering into a scale so massive, so profoundly devastating, that absolutely no nation on Earth can claim to fully contain it. This leads directly into an international nightmare defined by really fraught reactions. We're talking emergency diplomacy, rapid risk calculations, and intense demands from panicked allies. The pressure on global institutions is completely unprecedented. But the most dangerous dynamic of the whole shebang? The fear of retaliation versus the fear of inaction. Every single military and diplomatic option carries massive, civilization-ending risks. The geopolitical tightrope becomes razor-thin, with millions of lives hanging in the balance of every single decision. Eventually, the smoke would clear, and the world would have to decide how to move forward down one of two paths. On one hand, the wrong lesson, yielding to anger, revenge, and the pursuit of even more weapons, which would trigger a global arms race fueled by pure paranoia. On the other hand, the right lesson, focusing on prevention, diplomacy, de-escalation, and building stronger global systems designed to stop a catastrophe before it ever begins. The aftermath of this crisis would rewrite global security entirely, depending completely on which path humanity ultimately chooses to walk. And this brilliantly illustrates the one sliver of light in this incredibly dark scenario. Because even in the presence of terrifying destruction, human solidarity does not disappear. Actually, it often becomes strongest when the world is at its weakest. In the midst of all this horror, you would see the remarkable instinct of first responders, doctors, nurses, and everyday, ordinary citizens rushing directly toward the danger to help. That deep instinct to save others, to comfort total strangers, is a powerful reminder of our shared humanity, even in our darkest moments. We've looked at the timeline, the global panic, the economic collapse, and the profound human cost. But all of this information leaves us with one solemn, unavoidable question for this explainer. How does humanity prevent this from ever happening in the first place? A crisis like this isn't just about what happens after the fact. It's a stark warning about the fragility of peace right now. It is an absolute imperative that we focus on prevention, because once the sky rips open, the world as we know it is gone forever.